we'd like to talk you through the process of adding study groups to an existing course, the Enterprise Shed. So first of all, let's speak a little bit about what the course is and what it's about. So the Enterprise Shed is positioned before you would have a business plan. It's about generating ideas and refining those ideas. And the shed idea is to do with where our best ideas happen. Katie Ray is our lead educator, and she actually works on campus with groups of students, often in a World Cafe type setting, to encourage them to share problems, generate opportunities and get feedback. And that was very much the focus of our course. We wanted to bring that World Cafe idea to the FutureLearn platform and to model iterative approaches to problem solving and generating business ideas. At the time we designed the course, we very much wanted to use study groups, but the functionality wasn't available at the time. So what we settled on doing instead was, in the second and third weeks of the course, to use peer reviews to help learners get feedback from each other, and then to offer their ideas and their thoughts back into the wider course. We also knew that learner numbers dropped rapidly over the course. The design of the course is really about the learners doing stuff, doing work. So one of the things when the functionality was available is we wanted to see if the study groups would help collaboration and retention.
As Nuala said, we originally wanted to use study groups to give learners a place to connect and network with people, so people with similar interests. However, this first iteration of the study group function means that the learners are assigned randomly, so we looked at how we could use this tool and thread it in with the current course design that we already had. And after looking at the course, we felt that the best place would be to make it part of the peer review assignment, so they could articulate their idea, share it with one person and receive feedback, and then hopefully gain the confidence to share it with a smaller group, which would be the study group. So we decided we'd put it with the peer assessments in weeks 2 and 3, but we also added it into week 1 so we could introduce the learners to the tool and let them get to grips with it early on. We also discussed adding it to week 4, but given that there was going to be likely a reduction in student numbers and there wasn't a really clear activity there in that week, we decided that we weren't going to add it there. So once we decided where we were going to use study groups, we looked at how we were going to facilitate and support these tasks. So we planned out some clear prompts for the activities, and we decided to post them within the groups themselves rather than in the step to encourage the learners to visit them rather than staying within the step. And we decided to keep the mentoring quite limited within the study groups, and we gave one person the job of being the person that monitored the study groups, but we wanted to keep it very much a learner-led space. So how did it go? Anyone who's used study groups before will know that they're assigned randomly and you get some jazzy names once the groups are formed, and you'll see we had a number of different groups formed. Some of them had lots of discussion and others didn't have quite as much or didn't really get going. We received some positive feedback, and we had some examples of some really good discussions where learners were using the space to network with other people. But you can see from the graph that the interaction did start to tail off after the first couple of weeks. We also received some negative comments about the study groups, focusing on 2 themes, and that was the functionality and the random group allocation. So on the theme of functionality, some of the learners commented that they found it a little bit confusing because the task prompt was getting lost in the discussion and we weren't able to pin that at the top. So if people arrived a little bit late to the task, it wasn't obvious to them straight away what it is that they needed to do, so they were having to scroll down. They also felt that they wanted to be able to view the group's discussion before they committed to joining it, rather than randomly being allocated to one that wasn't very active. In the study groups, it's also not possible currently to filter the comments, so the sort of feeling that made it hard to find learners that they wanted to network with. On the topic of the random group allocation, a number of the learners commented that they wanted it to be based on their interests, and this could be the way we designed it. Also, the fact that it was following the peer assessment might have been slightly misleading, that they weren't necessarily then in the same study group as the person that gave them feedback, so they couldn't then find that person and carry on the conversation. So I think that's something we'll need to look at again.
So how did it go from our point of view in Course Central as people sitting back and monitoring the course? Well, first of all, the study group dashboard was really helpful in helping us identify what activity was going on and which groups were most active. Our mentors really enjoyed it, although we had told them to sort of sit back and let the students get on with it as a study space. One of them did get a little bit overexcited and bumped in and out of various study groups. And as the course goes on, we keep a record, a log of how the mentors are viewing the courses. And you'll see from the comments there that we've got both comments on enthusiastic discussions, but just the fact that things are petering out as the course goes on, and as we lose learners and the study groups themselves kind of lose their critical mass. In terms of our learning and reflections from the course, I think we felt quite happy that we hadn't created a week 4 study group task. One of the things we wanted to do with the survivors from the course was to encourage them to join a Facebook group, which a number of them did. At this point, we haven't yet got together with Katie to decide our approach for the next run. So you'll see that we had some good discussion in these groups, but to be honest, there wasn't really any obvious improvement in retention across the course. For this particular course, we had about 18.7% fully participating learners. And the last time we ran it without study groups, we had about 20%. So the jury's out on that one. As Ellie said, we may have contributed to some of the unmet expectations, so we could perhaps position that a little bit better and give learners the heads up about that, rather than having to do it in a podcast from one of the mentors as the course was in progress. So we also think we might need to rethink again whether we do peer review and study groups. Maybe the second time round we should just do the study groups. And at this point, we're very aware that we were using study groups when it was very much a beta item of functionality, and we know this will improve. So I think we'll revisit it and also look at using study groups in future courses where they're appropriate.